Patrick Jaguar, the Cosmic Alchemist, and happy Samhain. So, you've probably seen this word Samhain in writing before, but in phonetic English, it's Samhain. But Samhain, incidentally, is the pronunciation, and Samhain is a Gaelic, it's a Celtic word, a Gaelic word, and that's what Halloween used to be called before the whole thing was Christianized, before the population in the Celtic world was given the choice to convert to Christianity or die. So Samhain became All Hallows Eve, and the next day became All Saints Day or All Souls Day. So became Christianized, and the meaning got diluted. So in the old days, in old Europe, northwestern Europe, November the 1st, what we call the November the 1st, was the new year. It was the New Year's Day. It was the first day of the year. So what we call October 31st, or Samhain, was the last day of the year, and it was considered to be a day when the veil between worlds, between this 3D reality and then all the other dimensions that coexist around us that we don't see, the barriers between these worlds are actually thin, and there are more influences from dimensions outside what we call 3D reality. So that was what the deal was originally. And Halloween was kind of a compromise. It was a way for people to maintain folk traditions without being murdered by the Christians, really. So this is where Halloween comes from. So for me, I've always felt that, October was kind of a magical month, and it was really the end of the year. So Happy New Year to you all. That's the way I've always felt about it. A lot of my ancestry is from the Celtic world, so happy Samhain. So anyway, I'm making this video on October the 31st, and this is my November 2019 predictions video. So let's set the stage with first talking about what today looks like, what October the 31st looks like. So there's some pretty major events going on today. So for one, we have a Kalasarpa Yoga. Kalasarpa Yoga is when all of the visible planets, so we're talking Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter and Saturn, are all on one side of the Rahu-Ketu axis that goes through the middle of the chart. So when you have all the visible planets on one side of this Rahu-Ketu axis, you're living in fated times, and you're living through fated events. And really, Rahu and Ketu govern our evolution and our mental and spiritual evolution and our growth, and they sort of open windows in consciousness that give us opportunities to grow and to evolve. And so when you have planets like this all on one side of this Rahu-Ketu axis, these are definitely times when things feel out of control. So that's what the deal is with that. There's a lot of volatility in the world right now. By the way, you're going to see a cat tail flying around, so that is my cat, so I'm trying not to get too distracted. Anyway, so when you see all the planets on one side of this Rahu-Ketu axis, things can be very volatile and seem very out of control. But it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the divine plan in the literal heavens when you look up and see the stars and the planets. So anyway, we have that yoga, and yoga just means union. And another thing too is that with the Kalasarpa Yoga, the meaning of this is the celestial serpent union. So the celestial serpent is the Milky Way, this, and sort of the Aurora Boreas symbol, when you see the serpent eating its tail that goes around the planet. So we're living in very fated times where we're going to be given opportunities to transform, to evolve, and to grow. But this stuff doesn't tickle, so it's not going to be fun the whole time. So another thing we have right now here on Samhain, on the October the 31st, 2019, we have a Saraswati yoga. So Saraswati yoga is when the benevolent planets, so the benevolent planets are Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, and the moon, are all in one sign. So we have all these benevolent planets today in the sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio is a really interesting sign. It's an intense sign. It has to do with just deep, underlying, unconscious emotions and beliefs and thoughts and issues. We as human beings, our minds are like icebergs. So 10 to 15% of us is above the surface, is above the water, where you can see. And the remaining 90 to 85% of us is below the surface. And that's our unconscious. So our unconscious rules our preferences, our prejudices, our dislikes. It's all our reactions to the world. It's the reactions that we don't think about, that just come out of us. So people think that in general, especially these days with science as advanced as it is, and with as many university degrees as there in the world today, people like to think they're very in control of themselves, and honestly, this couldn't be far enough from the truth. And so this is true for us individually and collectively, as societies, as communities, as countries, and even as a human family. So getting back to Scorpio is about all these unconscious things, and it's about manipulation, it's about deception, it's about lies, it's about things done in secrecy and things done in the dark, things that are hidden. And so Saraswati yoga, when you put all these benevolent planets together, it's all about creativity and beauty, because Saraswati is a Vedic goddess, and she's basically kind of a mother of the universe figure, kind of like Frigga in the Norse Germanic pantheon. So when you have this this conjunction of all these benevolent planets that are facilitating all this creativity and all this beauty, but it's in Scorpio that deals with all these hidden things and lies and things, the unconscious, things going on below the surface, even conspiracies fall into this. When you have all these creative planets together in Scorpio, the way I read this is that there's basically a master manipulation going on. Basically, people are creating something that looks beautiful, but it's actually done for purposes of manipulation, and that's huge right now. Our whole two-party system, this whole left versus right thing, and really the old Orthodox religions that have been around, for the past 2 millennia, they're in their death throes in a lot of ways, because we're leaving the age of Pisces and we're going into the age of Aquarius. And people are afraid of this, but people in power who created and maintained all these control systems are afraid of this because they're afraid of losing their power. So they're all cooking us up things that look very beautiful. So, both political parties, especially here in the United States, the whole political thing is a total reality TV show fiasco, and people put way too much stock in it, and it doesn't even enter their darkest dreams that they're being manipulated with it. Because really, what a choice of political party is all about is how you react to fear. So when some people are afraid, they get combative and they say, well, I'm going to go take what I need. That's more, on the political right. And then some people, when they get afraid, they look for a messiah and they look for a savior. And they tend to see themselves as victims, and they tell a story about how they're victims and how someone needs to save them and needs to, go basically, take care of and eliminate, people who disagree with them, who they see as victimizers. So political party choice is all about how you react to fear. And Scorpio is all about fear too. So basically with this Saraswati yoga, with all these benevolent planets in Scorpio, we're getting manipulated through our fear, and people who are manipulating us are trying to make it look very beautiful. But it's not beautiful because, a funny thing that's going on right now is the Democratic Party is really the Republican Party of the 1950s, especially with this whole Russia craze. Tulsi Gabbard, who's a Democratic presidential candidate, who is a major in the Hawaii Army National Guard, who wants to bring troops home from overseas and actually wants to talk to world leaders, like Bashar al-Assad in Syria, which the Democrats used to talk about, is being called a Russian spy by Hillary Clinton, who really is a complete warmonger. But, women want to see a woman president, so they back her. So she's just calling her and anyone who supports her, a Russian agent. And she's saying she's a third-party candidate that Russian intelligence is going to manipulate, and fund so she can run for president and they can control the president. This is what the Republicans used to say during the Cold War about anyone who wasn't a Republican, who didn't agree with them. So, and there's other things going on here too, where actually some of the planetary placements that were taking place back in 1692 during the Salem witch trials are actually going on again. So there's a witch hunt, and if you don't agree with, really the extremes of the political left or the Democratic Party, you're just called a racist. So there's this witch hunt for racists, but, realistically, you can disagree with those people and not be a racist, but that's what happens when people become extremists. But all this looks beautiful, to some people, the people who want to see this. And so, this kind of thinking doesn't go anywhere beautiful. And really, when extremists take control and they get rid of their enemies, then they turn on their supporters. And this has happened time and again through history. So, you need to be aware of this. So there is this manipulation going on, but the silver lining is that we're going to get beautiful results out of it. And really, I think the manipulators in this world are going to go too far, and they're going to make their plans and their agendas too obvious, and there's going to be a backlash. So we have that to look forward to. So I think that's our gift on this Samhain, on this New Year's Eve, this All Hallows Eve. The spirit worlds are helping our world to show us the manipulation that's going on around us. And another thing too, with where Jupiter is in Scorpio today, is that Jupiter is in the 29th degree. It's in the Scorpion's tail. It's in that part of Scorpio. It's in the last degree of Scorpio, because signs are 30 degrees wide, 30 degrees across. So Jupiter is in the Scorpion's tail, and Jupiter is, in the old Vedic language, even Hindus today call Jupiter Guru, because Guru means deep. So it's a teacher that teaches you deep wisdom and deep knowledge. So Jupiter, the guru of the cosmos, is in the Scorpion's tail. So, Jupiter's going to sting us. And really, in this whole thing about the Scorpion's tail, that's what, if you're a Christian, that's what Judas kissing Jesus is all about. Is, Jesus is the sun god, and in Scorpio, in the fall, the sun goes below the equator and it heads towards the underworld, so it can be reborn after dying 3 days on December 21st on the winter solstice, and be reborn on Christmas. So Jupiter is Scorpio, not Jupiter. Judas from the Bible is the constellation Scorpio, because it gives the sun god, Jesus, the kiss of death. So since Jupiter is in the Scorpion's tails, Jupiter is going to give a kiss of death. And to me, what this is all about is Jupiter is giving a kiss of death to all of the old and obsolete beliefs that we've had, especially for the last 2,000 years, for the age of Pisces, where you're either part of the elite in crowd who's in control or you're not. And if you're not part of the elite, in crowd who controls everything, then it becomes your mission in life to basically suck up to the people in control and try to work your way up the power structure so you can make your mom and dad and your siblings and your neighbors happy. But, it's that whole pyramidal structure of society, but that's on the way out because we've started the Aquarian age. We're moving into that way of doing things and that way of thinking and perceiving the world. So Jupiter's giving a kiss of death to this old world. And this two-party system that I've been talking about, that's part of the Piscean control system because, one side always sees itself as righteous and good and godly, and it sees the other side as diabolical and evil and, devil spawn. Everyone thinks this of each other. So do you think you're both right? Do you think, I don't know how anyone can be on one of these sides and think that they're right and the other side's evil. That's total bullshit. The world operates in grayscale. And, and really the truth in this world is, are you being genuine with yourself? Because if you're being genuine with yourself, you're not going to hurt other people. But when you're not being yourself, you live through fear and you hurt other people because you don't see another way and you think you have to manipulate and take things from other people, otherwise you won't have enough. And, that's really the, it's like the medieval Christian worldview of, the world being, evil and hostile. And so just, join the right religious and political club and they'll take care of you. That's going away. We're going back to a time of seeing the universe as inherently supportive of, us as human beings. Because really the universe wants you to be your most genuine self and wants you to have your ideal life, whatever that is. But it's easy to get confused and think that, some life some dream that is not your genuine desire is, really your greatest dream because, we get scared of not having enough resources. So that's what we're moving towards. So, really the truth in this world is, are you being yourself? Are you being your genuine self? And if you're doing that, then you're not hurting other people. If you're living from fear, then you are hurting and you're exploiting other people. So that's really where these concepts of good and evil come from. So, if you're really following your heart, you're not going to hurt other people because you're in unity consciousness and you know that there's enough to go around for everyone, and you know that you only need so much. So another point about this Jupiter and Scorpion's tail. So Jupiter's in the last degree of Scorpio. It's going to move into Sagittarius. And, this is what is called Vedanta. And this is the case with any planet, where a planet moves from the last degrees of a water sign, being Scorpio, into the initial degrees of a fire sign, Sagittarius, for example. And there are different transitions of this. Cancer is a water sign and Leo is a fire sign. So whenever a planet moves from a water sign into a fire sign, this happens. And it's not just Jupiter, it's any planet. So Jupiter, at the 29th degree of Scorpio, a water sign, is about to move into Sagittarius, fire sign. And when this happens, there's definitely volatility and, people they feel an urgency and, things can feel out of control, but, really what this has a lot of, opportunity and a lot of good rolled into it. And because, Sagittarius is the sign of spirituality, of truth, of philosophy, of higher knowledge. And, Jupiter on the 7th of November is going to move into Sagittarius and be there for a whole year. And this is Jupiter's home, where Jupiter, is most powerful and feels most at home. So, we're going to feel a lot of changes in the world. We're going to feel change in ourselves. We're going to see the world and our lives differently. We're going to relate to our lives and other people differently, collectively and individually. And, people right now are going to kind of have a fire under their ass, and they're going to just have this inner drive and this inner, feeling, this inner urge to transform and to, become a better version of themselves. And, so human consciousness here has an opportunity to grow and evolve. So this is really an exciting time, and, that second week of November, it's kind of the beginning of the 2020 awakening in this whole ascension that's going to happen. I'm going to make another video about that because that's a big subject. But I really look at this as the start of the ascension. And, for years, people have been making videos about the coming ascension. And, before I understood it, it was kind of irritating because everyone was making one. But, I'm really seeing it now in my own life and, around me. So we have an opportunity to grow and to evolve here. And, whether it's conscious or unconscious, people are just going to want to be, aligned with their true selves and just, in their true life's purpose and just, really be, be authentic. But, every coin has two sides. So as people want to be more authentic, fanaticism is going to arise. And, people are really, they're going to see something as the truth that really isn't the truth, and they're going to want to drag other people along with them, and they're going to try to convert other people because, one thing we've had going on here is in Sagittarius, we've had Saturn and Ketu, and that's all about a person who feels lost in the world and they don't know where they fit in. So then they find the spiritual path, or they find a social cause or a philosophy, and they very radically and very extremely get behind it. And now that Jupiter, the teacher, is coming into Sagittarius, where Ketu and Saturn have been, people are not only going to be radical and extreme about their beliefs, but now they're going to be like missionaries, and they're going to be trying to force it. They're going to be trying to force it onto other people. So extremism is going to bump up here, and what's happening here is, Saturn and Ketu and Pluto all together have really been, destroying people's old, outdated beliefs, and they've been kind of facilitating a breakdown of government. Government right now is one of the big religions in the world. A lot of people laugh at traditional religion, but they're very religious about their political party and about, the leading figures in the political party, and they see them as like saints and martyrs and holy people. So, as the old beliefs start breaking down, and as government here in the, all over the world, you even see this in the East with the Hong Kong protests, but it's big in the U.S. right now. So, as you see this breakdown of old belief systems and this breakdown of government, there's going to be sort of a counter evolutionary movement, and this is going to be coming out of people's unconscious. They're not going to know that they're trying to, stop growth and evolution, for human consciousness, but functionally that's how they're going to be acting, because people fear the unknown, and, deep down people know that this Aquarian age is ramping up, and they don't want their old comfortable ways to go by the wayside. So people are going to be acting contrary to this, and they're going to be so polarized and so angry and pissed off about their belief systems, and their belief systems just, losing steam, and really that's kind of what this whole Donald Trump phenomenon is all about. I think unconsciously he's a trickster. He's like Rahu or Loki, and what tricksters do, what trickster gods do all throughout mythology, is that they show us the ways in which we're all self-righteous and hypocritical and, and really hateful. And so he's doing this because ever since, JFK, we've had this presidential reality television show where the president is showcased as this television personality, and we see this totally unrealistic side. So really, every president since JFK has been a soap opera star, and they have this polished delivery and this polished Ivy League, manner of speech and diction, and the media edits out their mistakes and just, makes them look perfect in the eyes of their supporters. So Donald Trump is not a soap opera star. He's a reality TV star. And so he just says things off the cuff and he shoots from the hip. And really, he talks the way that all politicians talk in private. He just does it publicly. He's honest about the way he is, where our presidents before him, even Obama, who was seen as, a great messiah, Trump speaks the way in public that all these other presidents speak in private. And so we're not being provided with the same television entertainment that we're used to. And people are freaking out about this, that we've had since the JFK administration. So, tricksters show you where you're self-righteous and where you're hypocritical, and people everywhere are hypocritical because, especially the political right talks about freedom, but, when it comes to national security, they'll give, the national security apparatus all the power it needs, won't question it at all. And then the left talks about diversity and kindness and compassion, but they're completely hateful to the people who disagree with them. So, we're being shown where we're self-righteous and hypocritical. So, that's what he's all about, So in a very roundabout, non-obvious way, he's a godsend. He does have a stupid mouth that he shoots off, but, he's no different than anyone who's come before him. He just doesn't hide it. So anyway, religious fanaticism. Politics is a religion in the modern day. So people are going to get more and more fanatical. And this is, one of the things driving this fanaticism is that the Piscean tradition of seeking spiritual leaders and gurus and spiritual teachers outside of ourselves is ending. It's running face first into a wall, and it's just over, So we need to be our own teachers and our own leaders, and there will always be spiritual guides and teachers, because some people, they eat, live, and breathe spirituality, and that's what they do for a living. And so they're well suited, if they're genuine people, they're well suited to guide people on a spiritual path. But, it's not going to be like the old days, where, I grew up Catholic and all these old ladies, these old widows they give priests money, as like personal gifts, because they see them as so godly and they see them as some, road to salvation. So that's over, and people do this. They do this with, with spiritual teachers, with New Age spiritual teachers too. So even New Age, light workers and spiritual teachers are going to have to be more genuine, and they're not going to be able to fill the shoes of, the old religions like they have been, since the 1960s, and even, before that, even, into the 1800s, when spiritualism was becoming a phenomenon. People, they took their Judeo-Christian mindset and just redirected it towards something New Age. So even in the New Age, we need to get, more honest and more genuine. So, and less hierarchical. Less hierarchical is the thing here. Hierarchy, as we know it, is dying. And so another cool part about this Gandanta, where a planet is moving through the last degrees of a water sign into a fire sign, is that it frees us individually and collectively from basically past karmas. So, karmas that are our own, in our own life and series of lifetimes, and then even, ancestral karma and, kind of tribal karma. So, really interesting possibility, and this will affect people differently based on their individual birth charts. But that's something we can all look forward to, and, something that goes along with karma, are things like, debts and illnesses and, even kind of the influence of enemies, people, someone sort of overshadowing another person, and threatening to do harm. So that's something that we're going to see, relief from. And we'll see how this plays out. Something that definitely happened around 2008, 2009 during the whole, market crash that, everyone refuses to call a crash or a depression. They call it the Great Recession. But one thing that a lot of banks were doing was that they were just discharging debt and getting rid of it because they wanted to make their books look better. So, and then, through 2020, economics is going to be a big thing. We're definitely going to see a lot of economic volatility, and things will get tough financially. We're going to, in my opinion, we're going to be returning to something like 2009, and it's likely going to be even more severe than that was. But that's just that's just how the cycles work. Another part of this karma that this Gandanta, this transit of, in this case, Jupiter from water sign Scorpio into fire sign Sagittarius, I feel like it's liberating us from the collective karma of being part of this whole, pyramidal hierarchy and this whole, this really deceptive two-party system. It looks like, these two parties who are enemies, but really they're working together. One of them is just a controlled opposition for the other. So, we get to step out of that in this 2020 Ascension, and we get to, be our own authority again, be our own leaders in our own spiritual authority in our own lives. It's a scary amount of responsibility for a lot of people. So, like I keep talking about, there's going to be a backlash, and people are going to fear this because we haven't done this in a couple thousand years. And people are going to want to go back to the old days, but you don't get to go back to the old days. It's just the way that works. So, a lot of possibilities here. And really, the way to freedom it's through spiritual freedom. It's through our own personal, individual spiritual freedom. And, humanity is learning to, act independently, simultaneously, independently, and together. Basically the way I see it is, our collective consciousness is coming online, and we're starting to be more like an immune system. Immune cells just know what they have to do. They don't have to, be told what to do, by the brain constantly. The message goes out to the whole body, and immune cells know what to do, and they know how to get, toxic, viruses and bacteria and substances out of the body. So that's what, we're becoming more like. So we need to, to get the world out of the mess it's in, we need to, act together without being told what to do. We need to be more genuine and, be in touch with our hearts and be in touch with who we really are. And we'll just do what we need to do without having being told to. So this 2020 Ascension is all about that. So going back to Jupiter here, Jupiter and K2 are going to be together, as I mentioned. And, K2 rules liberation from this world, and it rules spirituality. But, it can be very extreme. And, K2 on a bad day is like a religious extremist, like a terrorist, or like, a political terrorist or a religious terrorist. And so, we are, we're definitely, we're on the verge of radical change here. And, after 2020, nothing is going to look the same. Money, politics, work, spirituality. We're going to go through some big changes here. So it's a huge positive, but people are going to be extreme because they fear the unknown and they don't want what they know going by the wayside. So, I think there's going to be some great destruction and upheaval in 2020. And, because really, destruction and tragedy wake people up. And, 2020 is a year of awakening, and based on the current course that people are on, with trying to cling to, the good old days, especially with this Uranus and Aries in retrograde. People, the political right wants to go back to the 50s or the 1980s where they were nice and comfortable, and, they see those as glory days. And the left wants to go back to the New Deal of FDR or the Civil Rights Movement or the Bill Clinton days in the 1990s. So people don't want to change, but we're going to be forced to. So since people are clinging to the past, I think we're going to see some extreme events, some violent events, some destruction, some cleansing. Because, 2020 is a year of awakening, and we don't have a choice here. We need to move forward, we need to evolve, and we need to grow. So, again, this concept of Gandanta, where a planet moves from a water sign to a fire sign. So, Jupiter again, it's in the tail of the Scorpion. It's in the 29th degree of Scorpio, and it's moving into Sagittarius. So, the things here also feel out of control, and we'll likely see, from now through the first week of November, we'll see storms, floods, extreme weather, even drowning. And there's going to be a lot of emotional swings, in people all over the world. And the thing is that human emotions influence the natural environment. Most scientists don't agree with this, but it's what people have known for thousands of years. So it's what I believe. So this extreme weather is all about the volatility inside of us and the anger and the extremism inside of us. So the more we can, just chill it out and bring it down and find common ground with other people, the less destruction and the less cleansing we have to go through. So again, the 4th of November, Jupiter moves into Sagittarius, into the nakshatra, or the mini constellation Mula. So the nakshatras are, in Vedic astrology, are the little 27 mini constellations that make up the 12 signs. So Mula is the sign of destruction, because from destruction and cleansing comes new growth. So Jupiter is going to be in Mula from the 4th of November to the 4th of January 2020. So yeah, I definitely see some powerful events here. Some, something very powerful is brewing, something shocking. And really it's going to get our attention and wake us up out of really the juvenile, bickering, combative mentality we've been in. Everyone's trying to have their own way. So, whatever this event is going to be, it will, it'll clear the air, and, it'll get our attention. And, there's a lot of possibilities to this. Sagittarius is all about religion, but, like I said, politics is a religion, science is a religion these days. Religion is just whatever you're dogmatic about and you put your unquestioning faith into, and you don't allow yourself to think critically about it. So, this is science, academia, politics. Some people treat money this way, so whatever their social causes are. So, we'll see. A lot of possibilities about how this can manifest. But, whatever this shocking kind of destructive event is, it will bring healing. And, it will bring us together. And, healing will come out of the destruction. So, like I say, two sides to every coin. So then on November 12th, another thing we have coming up, we have the full moon in Aries conjuncting Uranus. So, this is really neat, because this will open people's minds to just new points of view, new possibilities, and just help us to be generally tongue-tied today, generally more open-minded. So, we can always use that. And, another thing here too, jumping back a little bit, is that today, Samhain, October 31st, Halloween 2019, Mercury starting its retrograde, starting in Scorpio, going back into Libra. And that's going to go through the 20th of November. So, retrograde planets, whether Mercury or otherwise, they're always about, reflecting and reviewing the different parts of our lives. Taking a step back, seeing what we're really doing, getting out of the unconscious and back into conscious and taking a look at ourselves. So, Mercury is all about our thinking. It's all about our communication. It also deals with travel. So, an interesting thing that's going on here is that, there'll be two more Mercury retrogrades in the future, one in February and one in June, where Mercury will retrograde back into air signs. So that's 3 Mercury retrogrades in a row where Mercury retrogrades back into air signs. So, I think, we're going to, we might see, some real, both meaningful and intense communication. I think we might also, see, some travel, some events, with travel and with commerce, with, some air disasters perhaps, plane crashes, who knows? I hope not, but it often happens that way. So, we definitely, with these Mercury retrogrades in air signs, which deal with communication, we have opportunities here to improve our communication and, make the world better and more peaceful. And, since Mercury is going to retrograde back into Libra, we have an opportunity here to make our relationships better, because Libra especially deals with, our love relationships. So, that's kind of a foundation in our lives. So we have an opportunity to really step back and see, how we're acting and communicating within those. So another thing we have too is that Venus and Mars are in each other's signs. So we're going to have a Venus in Scorpio and a Mars in Libra this month. So, again, we have another opportunity, more opportunity to heal our relationships. So definitely something we need to be mindful of, because, the whole world, every community is built upon, the homes, everyone's individual home. So, definitely something to look at here. And then November 21st, we have a conjunction of Jupiter and Venus in Sagittarius. So really neat conjunction, because again, Sagittarius is spirituality. It's higher learning, higher philosophy, it's truth. And, Venus is creativity and art and performance. So definitely a window of opportunity for inspiration, and for, just people to, create, beautiful, inspiring works of art. So then at the end of the month, November 29th, this Kalasarpa Yoga, which was going on in October, comes back online. So again, Kalasarpa Yoga is when all the visible planets, the 7 visible planets, well, the 5 visible planets and the 2 luminaries, Sun and Moon, are on one side of the Rahu and Ketu axis. So again, this Kalasarpa Yoga, it's the Time Serpent Yoga, Time Serpent Union or conjunction. So, definitely at this time, during Kalasarpa Yogas, everything is more intense, things are more extreme, and, this can be very healing, but it can be violent and destructive too. It just depends, where people decide to go with it. Because, every coin has its 2 sides, and really, I think that we live within a combination of free will and fate. So depending on how, through these extreme times and these polarized times, depending on how we act, that determines how intense and how extreme things get. But, end of the month, things will definitely have that out of control kind of feeling. But, really great healing and resolution can come from this. So we need to be open to that. We need to, as they say in psychology, not awfulize the things that are going on, so, don't see people who disagree with you as evil or the devil or, whatever. So, and another thing that's going on for all of November is, Jupiter will be conjunct, it'll be in the same sign, it'll be in Sagittarius, Saturn and Pluto. So, and I mentioned this before in this video, Saturn and Pluto together in Sagittarius have been, they've been bringing down the breakdown of centralized and often, deceptive government. So our old views, again, are being broken down. Our old views of government, what leadership should look like. And even, the tendency of the mainstream of people to worship, and idolize politicians and political leaders is being broken down. And, really these politicians don't seem to be living up to our expectations, because we're entering into a time when we have to lead ourselves and be our own spiritual leaders. So, a lot of people don't like hearing it this way, but, really the way I see it is the breakdown of government, and then the falling of these political idols gives us the opportunity, gives us all the opportunity really to get our own lives and to get our own individual identities and stop, being part of a mindless collective where we think that the world will be fixed and our lives will be fixed if we just join the right political club or the right religious club or political club or the right social cause. So, it's a great opportunity, but like I said, there'll be sort of a backlash to this, and not everyone's going to embrace this. And, most people are really afraid of this. And, they want to just remain devotees that don't have to make any decisions. They want to be basically voyeurs to this whole political reality show, and they just want to cheerlead the right side and just assume that everything's going to be great if they do that. But, that's the old way, and that's over. So, we're going to see people getting angrier and angrier, more polarized. And, but through all that, remember that whatever is going on outside of you is a reflection of what's going on inside you. So you don't like Donald Trump, you don't like AOC or Nancy Pelosi. They're showing you something about you that you don't like. So remember that. If it's their rudeness or their arrogance or their self-righteousness, whatever you see in them, it's something you're seeing in yourself, and they're acting as a mirror to you, even if you don't like them. So remember that. And through this whole political drama, remember that people that you think are assholes can't manipulate you. So people that you like, that you have a glowing opinion of, they're the ones who can manipulate you because your guard is down. So people who you love and you like can most successfully manipulate you. So remember that. So, again, we need to find common ground. We need to work together. Stop labeling people. Stop demonizing and dehumanizing people because they're from the other party, or they're wearing a MAGA hat, or, they're wearing a Joe Biden t-shirt or whatever. Just remember that everyone's a fellow human. They're part of your human family. So, another thing is here too is, we need to, if we want to improve the world, we need to improve ourselves here, because, we're coming out of a culture of criticism, and really the Cold War era here in America was a total culture of criticism where you just criticize people for not being on your side and agreeing with you, and you just, you demonize and dehumanize them and talk about how wrong they are. But really the reality here is that criticism is all that miserable people have. It's all they have to look forward to. And, I look at people in my family when they watch the news and they laugh in a humiliating way about the politicians they don't like. Well, they're miserable people, and that's all they have. So, you know, diverts that energy from criticism into improving yourself, because when you improve yourself, the whole world improves around you. So, and another thing, along these lines with our inner worlds reflecting our outer worlds is November 10th, Mars enters Libra with the Sun and Mercury. Mercury, which is in retrograde at the time. And Mars is going to be in a mutual aspect with Uranus, which is across the zodiac in Aries. So, is it ever a time to step back and just evaluate how you're treating other people and how you're relating to other people, how you're communicating with them? So think about this, and don't just write yourself off as a good guy because you're a good Democrat or a good Republican or a good Christian or whatever. Really take a good look at yourself. So another interesting thing too, along the lines of Mars and Uranus, November 24th, Mars and Uranus both come to 9 degrees of the respective signs they're in. So Mars at 9 degrees of Libra, Uranus at 9 degrees of Aries. So they're in a direct mutual aspect, looking directly at each other. So definitely some potential here for some serious explosive events, some violent events here. And, I think this event will, so this is around November 24th again, around Thanksgiving time. This event will, in my opinion, definitely bring about some destruction and some cleansing if, people just don't learn how to dial it down and step back and get along with each other in a very basic way. Stop the name calling and the criticism and the humiliation. You don't have to agree with everyone. You don't have to be everyone's best friend, but, we got to make it less juvenile here, because the more juvenile we insist on being, the more we're going to be forced to grow up and act like grown-ups. So, people could wake up and decide to, act like part of a human family together, but, I don't think this is likely, because people are just getting more polarized and angrier the more they watch this whole presidential reality show, in this campaign season that starts earlier and earlier every 4 years. So, really, people in general don't wake up and grow voluntarily. They need to be driven by necessity, and it's an involuntary process that their survival depends on. And, like I said, I think we live in a universe that's a combination of fate and free will, but, people's present courses and their present dispositions doesn't look like they're going to grow up, and work together voluntarily. So we'll get some harsh events that just make us do it. So we'll see what comes our way here. And an interesting thing too is, I read runes. That's the magical divination language of, the Norse people and the old Germanic people. And of the 24 runes, 2 runes are devoted to change and transformation. And the first, which is the Heil rune, Hagel, however you want to say it, is devoted to voluntary transformation and voluntary change that you take upon yourself to initiate. And then the Uwaj, the U tree rune, is all about involuntary change, that basically life in the universe just kind of drags you through because you've been resisting it and you've been missing the messages that you need to do it voluntarily. So, definite time of extreme change and volatility here. And like I said, after 2020, the world's going to look different in every way. Another thing here too is that, here in November, Pluto is going to come to 27 degrees of Sagittarius, which is the galactic center point. So it's where energies from the galaxy, come from. The giant central sun at the center of the galaxy, it emits powerful radiation, and 27th degree of Sagittarius points directly at it. So when you have Pluto here, the god of the underworld, Pluto makes you deal with things you didn't want to deal with, makes you look at sides of yourself you didn't want to look at and acknowledge that even existed. So Pluto is making us deal with who we really are deep down, and the self-righteousness and the hypocrisy and the hateful attitudes that we all have, even if we think that we're the most compassionate progressive in the world. We still have this. So again, November 2019 is it's the threshold to the 2020 Ascension, the 2020 Awakening. So that was a long one. That's all I've got. So my website is thecosmicalchemist.com. Definitely book a Vedic astrology reading with me. Vedic astrology reading is really a roadmap to who you are, to your personality, to how you work and how you interact with the world. And it's kind of a roadmap for the rest of your life. And it shows you what your natural strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and how you can work on both and improve your life. And I do rune readings too, and this is another way of kind of making a mind map to show you where you're at and what you're doing well, and where your blocks are, where your psychic blocks are that are preventing you from moving forward into the life that you want. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.